fade the opposite. I'm just saying, as far as right now, what I would do is look hard at the Philadelphia 76ers pre-flop and not even look back at that point. Mike Elliott asked if Joel is going to score 40 tonight. The player prop is there. If you just look at the prop itself, it's there, and you can start to maneuver around why you would go over. Even looking at high 20s, clearly an over, right? Like you would just think, without a doubt, you would go over there. 32.5, I think, is, and it's not even juiced as much as you're going to get it at minus 110 or so, pretty much across the board here. But Joel Embiid at 32.5 points, he's got a pretty strong projection so far as far as minutes and points. His line right now is 38.5, or was 38.5 for points, rebounds, and assists. That has to have gone up by now. I mean, there's just no way that still remains the same there. But I think if you were looking for Joel Embiid, and I agree with you, or at least will answer your question, Mike, that yes, he's going to score over 32.5. I think this could be a 36, 38 point night for Embiid. And I don't think that he's going to be out there for 36, 38 minutes. I think you're going to see a super efficient night from a guy who the only reason why he'll be on the bench late is because of the blowout scenario, more so than anything else. It's not going to be his injury situation, which is non-existent. It's not going to be foul trouble. It's going to be, all right, you guys are up by 18. Joel Embiid has played 32, 34 minutes. That's probably enough. Could easily see that happening. That's enough to get to 40 points. Ideally, worst case scenario, I should say, maybe the opposite of it is you get 26 to 28 minutes from Embiid. There are probably maybe, 1 to 2 other people max in the NBA that you'd feel comfortable still getting 40. Joker being one of them, Steph being another one. And yeah, you can make arguments, Luka, these other guys, but no, not with game flow working against them. And that's what makes Embiid such a rare gem when it comes to betting him from a prop standpoint, is they're not game flow dependent. He, Steph, and maybe a couple of other guys. Harden, when he's really, really on, it's hard to tell what the hell's going on now with this big three. But that's a big part of it. Yeah, I think that's a major part of it, to be honest with you, is pushing it from the element of Joel Embiid and what your projection is, as opposed to just whether or not you think he can get to a certain number. Can he get to 33? What do you think it's going to be tonight? Right? Let's look at this and build this. What do you honestly think this is going to build tonight? Joel Embiid, the Philadelphia 76ers are definitely going to come out with the intent of exploiting every single matchup. And rightfully so. Why wouldn't you, right? Every single matchup. You want to make sure that Joel Embiid, first and foremost, is there to exploit it. Now, you got great games from Ben Simmons, more defensively and facilitating on offense. You got great game from Tobias Harris offensively, career level when it comes to the playoffs. So you don't want to keep relying on that. I mean, look, the total for Harris right now is 21.5. That might be too much for people. It's not, but I think I can still make a case to go over. It's just to stay away. I'm looking, though, at the percentage of people who have jumped on, or at least believe, that Embiid can go over. And there is, I think, a sense here that he's not going to be out there much. I don't know why, but it seems like the experts, the people that predict this stuff, the people that you go to for inside and insight, whatever it may be, anything and everything in between, they're telling you that Joel Embiid is a hard fade tonight at 32.5. Mike Elliott, just based off the explanation, I think believes that Embiid can score 40. I believe that Embiid is going to be out there enough to get me 36, and that's really what I need right now is 36. Do you see a path for Joel Embiid to get to 36 points? If you do, then you hammer that over. 40, again, anything over 36 is always going to be the bonus. Can you get a point per minute from Joel Embiid? That's really what you're asking. How difficult should that be, man? Right? Like, seriously, how difficult should that be? Joel Embiid, point per minute tonight, expecting around, 34 to 36 minutes. I don't think that's asking the world by any means. I don't think that you're turning around and demanding that you get something amazing right now. Like something revolutionary, something historic. Oh my goodness. You're never, ever going to find a performance like this again. I mean, Bryn Forbes, that level stuff. I think what instead you get is a strong look at what can come from Joel Embiid's game flow. And if Joel Embiid is not in foul trouble, then he is the game flow, right? I mean, if the dude right now is, in some capacity out there without being hurt, then he is the game flow, man. There's no difference. Zero difference. I'm just trying to get this thing up, man. It's amazing how. Put a tweet out. More people seeing this on Facebook than on Twitter. Yet 19,000 people follow on Twitter. And I don't even know how many of these, quote, friends I have in the 5,000 range are even real people. It's just amazing to me. It truly is amazing to me that you can put something like that. And I'm linking Periscope. See, that's another thing, too, is we got to get Periscope out of here, man. Seriously. Periscope is so cooked. So cooked. LinkedIn? Who the hell would... Do people go to LinkedIn for shows? Like, are people going on LinkedIn and doing talk shows? Really? I didn't realize that. I mean, this program I have will go out to all different platforms, and I was making sure that I wasn't overlooking a direct send to Twitter, because even still, with my own retweet and all, it has done nothing to bring any eyes or attention on the tweet. The impressions just refuse. No, I don't get it. But not here to rip, as one host here famously once said in Philadelphia, but more so to inquire. That's all. I just thought it was really bizarre that you would find such a limited amount of exposure on one area where you're being told you have 4 times the amount of reach, as opposed to the other one where it's kind of just like, hey, are you even on here? How often are you on here? So I would understand why Facebook would bury me. By all means, I'd get that. Truly get that. Love the Sixers tonight. People just popping in here. This is the pre-show, the record for later. So giving you all an opportunity to pop in, ask questions. Doesn't have to be about the Sixers or even a bet. In reality, it's kind of like an AMA on anything. But if not, then we just talk about what's happening tonight. And we do get back into some more betting stuff. Do like the Phillies on the money line if you wanted to work that in somewhere else. I might be convinced to take the Marlins, maybe on the run line, getting 1.5 at home and then working that into a parlay. In fact, if you wanted to look at that and just, it's too close, man. It's the Marlins, Aaron Nola. You can just scream that as much as you want, but it's the Marlins. And I'm not willing to say that because Vince Velasquez got over on the squad last night, Miami's just going to lay down. I just can't do that right now. And this is similar to how we played out with that whole Boston series to open up in the first round of the Cup, was you just keep going under Boston, Washington until proven otherwise. You just keep going under. So trying to work something out in your favor tonight, I think the best scenario, to be honest, is starting with the Sixers. That's your anchor play. Like Brooklyn last night, you've got an anchor play. And from there, what do? Here we go. There's the tweet picking up. It's just a matter of time. Where else can you go? Where can you bring that minus 350 to life with another play here? It might just be taking the Phillies on the money line, to be fair, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that the Marlins win outright, but I'll take that 1.5. I'll take a 1 run, just for the support. Now, look, if you were to combine the two, where I have it here on Fox Bet, if you were going to combine the Phillies on the money line and the Sixers on the money line tonight, that's a sweet little two-way play for our squads here. If you were going to do that, the return, at least Fox Bet has it at plus 102. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. You're taking advantage of Aaron Nola. You're taking advantage of a guy that's going up on the other side that doesn't have much of a track record at all this year. You're in good shape, I think, if you just look at the Phillies. The problem, of course, is the bats, the lack of run support. It's not somebody that I think in Aaron Nola's case, you can truly rely on him to shut this lineup down. I just don't think you can do that. That's not where Aaron Nola is yet. I mean, you might have more confidence in Vince Velasquez shutting down a lineup for the first 5 or 6. There might be a mistake that's costly. And at that point, what are you relying on? You're relying on a lineup without Bryce, without JT, without Didi. They can get around. They definitely can get around. And, going up against a righty tonight, there's opportunity with this lineup, depending on how Girardi kind of fixates it right towards the end. But there's opportunity. It's just, do you have that pop? I mean, is Gene Segura going to bail you out with a 2-run shot where you normally can't rely on something like that? Probably not, right? Probably not. So it's really, and look, Alcantara gets buried last night, and it's not the norm. It's really just not the norm. So much of that was fueled by Vince Velasquez refusing to revert back to the Vince Velasquez that we all know and love. And maybe it is foolish to keep hanging on that, but this is not just a rah-rah show. This is not just we root for our team. This is cover the damn spread. I don't care who we're betting on. Just cover the spread. And there is a little concern just having this game going up against a team in Miami that beats the Phillies. And you know what? We wouldn't be laughing. We wouldn't be making jokes at the Phillies' expense if they kept winning, if they just kept beating Miami. But instead, they keep losing overall, at least recently, it seems. And then you had that one game last night. It's a perfect opportunity, right, for the books to swing back and tell you that Aaron Nola on the mound should be the heavy favorite. Yes, Aaron Nola on the mound should be a favorite right now. But what else? What else do you have? You have a depleted lineup. You have a situation against a team that even if you're able to get around on a ball, you haven't been able to do it consistently or at least successfully overall to where the body of work has netted victories. I would still feel uncomfortable about, and you should too, feel uncomfortable about going with the Phillies tonight if Harper, Realmuto, and Didi were back in this lineup, because it's the Marlins and just because of this situation that hangs and lures. And look, we just don't know how bad either one of these teams really are this year. We just don't yet. There still is so much more baseball for either one of these teams' bad side to not just reveal itself, but to dominate. And I know we saw slips here and there, but I think the play here would be simply to take the Phillies on the money line and take the Sixers and kind of go from there. Now, the aggressive play here would be to flip that, right? The aggressive play now would be to change that around and go more so with the Marlins now at plus 145. That's going to get you a return at plus 215. That's where I think the value clearly lies, is you've bumped up the value from 145 to 215. You're now over a 2-to-1 return on the Marlins winning. And look, from, if it's expected value, if you're just looking at a return of investment or any other term that you would like to throw out to determine how valuable this bet really is, I got to be honest with you, you're essentially just taking the Marlins on a money line with plenty of history. And even Aaron Nola's, his own statistics out there, his own history and the team in Miami's history. And I think you make a conscious decision from Nola's standpoint, at least, to roll with him. Now, Nola's got some stuff working for him, but we know that the Phillies strike out. You know, we know that they have a major problem when it comes to Ks. And all you really need to do, I mean, from a whiff rate, even, you can see these guys are pretty high up there comparative around the rest of baseball. I mean, it's not great, even when you're looking at Rhys in this lineup. Now, Brad Miller is charged with extending innings, providing some pop. Odubel Herrera in the 5-hole. Nick Maton bumped up. It's Roman Quinn now in the bottom of this lineup. This is not a lineup that instills fear. Outside of Rhys Hoskins getting away with a random solo shot, or maybe because Segura has legged something out or worked a walk. I mean, think about how flawless this team has to really be in order for them to get this victory. Nah, fade. Hard fade on the Phillies. I gave you what was the local easy play here. And that's, all right, you want to roll with your teams, go ahead. Now, I will say this. There is one element of this parlay that I think you can play even better and feel even more confident, and you are somewhat in the middle. And that's rolling under 7.5. Now, it's going to be juiced up to high heaven and back, especially where I have it here on the Fox Bet app. But 7.5 ain't bad. You know, you roll 7.5 like that under, now you got a return of plus 125. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. It's presented by Cure Auto Insurance. Again, at Shander Show. How you follow me here on Twitter, live across the board, as we are live on the pre-show to show. So you want to hit us up on the stream, this is the place to do it. We go live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the areas of wherever you may be. Sixers hard tonight, pounding that at minus 8, 8.5. 8.5 right now. I could get it at even money. Just don't know what you're waiting on, really. What is it that you possibly could be waiting on that would be a deterrent for you to pop in and take the Sixers? Help me with that, right? I know that there are some people popped up here, and maybe it's somebody in your group, and I'm not demanding that you interact. I'm just asking you to think about this. That's all. Nobody says anything. That's fine. This can be a one-way program. That's usually how it is anyway, so that's totally okay with me. Harry Mays will tell you that that's how I prefer life anyway. But just what scenario could possibly happen where the Philadelphia 76ers lose this basketball game? I mean, seriously, let's just start there. I don't care about the cover right now. I don't care about the total right now. Let's just talk about how the Philadelphia 76ers lose this game. And it's going to be a short conversation because I don't think you have anything concrete outside of just, well, yeah, Russ could go. Okay. I talked about this earlier in the day on the show with Barrett and Harry. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal could combine for 90 points. 90 points. And the team could probably get a $105, 106, something like that. Because Hachimura and Bertans, these guys are designed to come in and get you like 8 or 9 points in a short period of time, and then that's it. They are the perfect example of why you would never extrapolate somebody over 36 minutes, because the more they play, the more likely they're going to be the problem on the floor. It's just the nature of it. That's why you don't rely on these dudes long term for an extended period of minutes on good teams. Yeah, they could probably play on good teams and come off the bench and play some good minutes, but it ain't going to be starter minutes and it ain't going to be deep into games where you're relying on them to hit their 15th or 16th shot of the night. That's a recipe for disaster right there. But here's the problem. That's all they got. That's it. That is all they got. So this isn't a matter of coaching. It's not a matter of execution. It's a matter of that's all you got. Those two dudes that I mentioned, not Beal and Westbrook, the other two guys that I mentioned, that's it. Like, that's really it. There isn't a fourth option or a third option that we've overlooked. It's not Lopez. It's not that. I mean, this is it. Honestly, like, this is a bad basketball team. Not Boston bad. I still think Boston's worse, but that might be my bias. Boston now, I mean, not with a healthy Jaylen Brown, although this year was an atrocity. They're just a bad basketball team, man. Washington is not a good basketball team. What are you nervous about? You know what I'm nervous about is the public money on the Knicks. You want to talk about a game that I just can't wait to bet and want to bet and 5-6 times over, but I can't. It's the Knicks game. You guys are ruining all of this. I mean, that's the thing. You guys are ruining this thing. This is great. I got Corey Parson hitting me up on the phone. Been trying to get in touch with him for a minute right now. And he's hitting me up. I'm gonna have him pop in here, see if he can jump in. No, it'd be unfortunately not for me, at least. I don't have that cachet to just throw somebody on like that. But just really quick, there's way too much money on the public right now. Way too much on the Knicks, public money on the Knicks. And that's a stay away. I wanted to just pound New York. As soon as that thing came out, I wanted to just destroy that look-ahead line. And updating it as we have it in front of us. It hasn't changed much. 72% of the public making up 79% of the bets. We're near, 18, 19,000 tickets so far, at least coming in for that data. So that's a pretty good market size right now. It gets even worse when you look at it on the money line, man. 83% of the public making up 94% of the bets. Here's the problem, though. The lines really haven't moved. Remember, last time the Knicks were favored, and still getting a ton of public money. And then somebody just suitcased a bunch of sharp money that day, and then we saw the Hawks turn from road dog to road favorite. And then it was like, oh, man, yeah, too late at that point. We're cooked. Too late. And you were. You had the Knicks thinking you were in great shape as a home dog. As soon as you saw that suitcase money shift everything and push this thing through zero, you knew it was over. You knew that your bets, it's like that slow motion scene in whatever movie you want to go to, in which the guy knows it's like, oh, no. It's over. 83% of the bets, 94% of the money. And and still, that fade of New York only nets you a plus 115. That's it. Plus 115. All of this public action, it only dropped 3 points. Now, if you want me to take a risk on Atlanta and go against the public grain, not that the public is right, we fade the public as often as we possibly can without it being cliche and calling the show something like that. But the line needs to reflect as well. The movement needs to reflect as well. And it hasn't. It truly hasn't. I mean, that should be you want to give me a return on this, give me 135, give me 140 on this. Justify it simply on the fact of how much public money is being spent on it. Don't sit there and insult me, please. Don't do that. The other area here of concern would be Trae Young. Now, I don't know what to tell you because I go to this website often. I work for this website often. I trust everything that they do here. Their optimizers for fantasy DFS are through the roof. It's awesome. We've had Lofty on before. Greg Ehrenberg works there. He's been on with Brace, myself here on this channel. So you're familiar with it. If you're familiar with DFS, then you know that a lot of people use these optimizers and crunchers in order to predict individual performances, therefore to use that on player props. Okay, all of that being said, the best return, okay, so this dropped a little bit. I feel much better. Much better. Earlier in the day, because it'll give you a percentage of which prop bet based on predictions, it'll give you a percentage of over or under as far as the better number. What I mean by this, just to make sense of it, it's What Are the Odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance at Shander Show. Before we break real quick, just to make sense of this, Trae Young was sitting at 26.5 points, and the predictive models and the crunchers and the optimizers were saying under. And it was like 85% of a chance that it would return under. And sure, nothing is 100%. I understand that. But 85% in our world is pretty damn close to it. You can make a confident bet at that point. But of course, wherever you find 26.5, it's going to be heavily juiced. And then when it drops to 25.5, like I have it on Fox Bet, Bleacher Report, BetMGM, it's still going to be somewhat in the minus. If it's minus 110, even up to minus 125. I mean, man, Trae Young under 25.5 is minus 125 at BetMGM. That's insulting. If you're going to drop it to 25.5 and you're going to have me go under, at least Bleacher Report and DraftKings only have me laying 107. I tell you, man, the squeeze factor for us in legal states, it's crazy, man. I'd make an analogy about something else being legal in this area, but it may not hit for everybody. Just no pun intended. Just ridiculous, this juice squeeze. And that's one of them right there. It's ridiculous. They would drop it. The consensus was at 26.5. 26.5. So I can get it under 26.5 at minus 122 at FanDuel versus go under 25.5 minus 125 at BetMGM. Why? Why would you even go back to that app once you saw that? Now, the reason is because for the next prop, it's just going to be flipped. It's almost like everybody's working, not necessarily in cahoots, but under the same umbrella of keeping an eye on what we do, how we act, and then reacting accordingly, but knowing that it's us versus them. And, we get caught up in all this, right? Oh, it's us versus them. We all got to stick together. Well, what do you think? They're just sitting there thinking, no, it's not us versus them. It's us and you. There's no versus. No. They sit there and they manipulate juice, knowing that, hey, Donovan Mitchell prop, okay, it's our turn. Alec Burks prop, okay, it's your turn. Trae Young prop, all right, it's their turn. Just keep going around and around. We'll be back, wrap the last 5 or so here. What Are the Odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.